Let's take a look at the options on chart design. I'll first select my chart and you'll see the chart is linked to this data in column B, homework 1. I'll click on chart design and we're going to have a look at add chart elements first. Let's have a look at axes. We'll look at more axes options. We can easily change our minimum and maximum boundaries, and we can change units quite easily, and across here we're going up in 5s, and on our y-axis we're going up in 1s. So let's have a look. If we change our major units to 10, and if you have a look at the x-axis, you'll see that it now goes up in 10s and not in 5s. We can also change the type of number we have in each cell, clicking on number, and we can add tick marks at the bottom of our spreadsheet or at the side of our spreadsheet so we can read more easily what scores are, as we can see here. I will now remove my tick marks, so I'll go back to the major type and I'll go to none, and you'll see that all tick marks have now been removed. With our chart selected, we go to chart design. Let's have a look now at some of the other options. We can easily add axis titles by clicking on primary horizontal for the x-axis and going back and clicking on primary vertical for the y-axis. And here we have provisional titles for our x-axis and our y-axis. And again, using the Blue Peter principle, both axes are now formatted to be bold. Now I want to have a look at adding a chart element for title, and at the moment we've got ours above the chart. If we click on centered overlay, the heading goes behind the bars. If we go back and click none, then we have no title. The position of our title is above the chart. Let's make those data labels at the end of the bars more easy to see. At the moment we've got them on inside end, and you can see on the lighter colours we can clearly see them, on the darker we can't. If I put them in the centre, all this does is put the numbers into the centre. If I click on outside end, we can now see all of the scores clearly without having to line up the bars against the scores at the x-axis. We could add a data table to try to help us read our data more easily, and you can see it's put this particular data table at the bottom of the chart. I can read all of the scores just as easy by looking at the chart. In this case, I don't think that we need our data table, so I'm going to remove it. Where appropriate, we could add statistical elements, and I can look at adding error bars, standard error, percentage, standard deviation. Let's click standard error, and you'll see there are standard error markings at the end of each bar. Again, I don't think it's particularly relevant for this particular chart. I could also have a look at grid lines, so I can add a range of different grid lines, and if you have a look now, you'll see it's got a full set of grid lines within the table for primary, major, vertical, and it's well worth looking at the various options you have for putting different grid lines on your chart. We can also add legends where appropriate to our charts. Let's just take a look at what it looks like in this case, and I don't think this is particularly relevant for this chart and this set of data, so I'm going to undo it. And I can have another look at positioning, and I can position it against the bottom of our chart, but I don't think it adds anything to our chart. And finally, trend lines, another useful tool in its place. I have a number of different trend lines, but it's not relevant for this particular set of data because we're not showing trends over a period of time, we're showing scores.
Brought to you by Evolution.